Okay, in the physical configuration of these routers in our network, we're now configuring our clients. So I'm going to show you the Windows XP screen here, and Nikki is going to double click on the local area connection and properties and highlight TCP/IP, go to properties and show you the configuration. Hopefully you can see that. She's set the IP address to 192.168.1.100 and the gateway to 1.1, 192.168.1.1. And then that's on the PC that is connected to the bottom router. Okay, now Brock, on the other hand, let's go over here. And Brock, hopefully you can see this. He's got his configuration set right there, 172.16.1.100 and 172.16.0.1. Right? He clicks OK, and he's got his client configured. Okay, and that's configured to the top. That client is connected to the top router down here. Okay, so now it's time to configure the routers. Okay, so we can get this working. Okay, to do that I need Kyle. Yes. Kyle, you're my man. You're going to hold this. Okay. All right, you guys, you ready to go? Okay. Okay, I'm connected to my Windows 7 laptop, which I connected to that bottom router that you saw in the video. I'm not on XP, so what I did was to emulate this to hyperterminal into to connect to the router through the console cable. Traditionally in the Cisco curriculum you use hyperterminal, but Windows 7 does not come with hyperterminal. So what you can do is, if you want it, you could go to an XP client and you could copy out these two files, hypertrm.exe, which is located in the program files folder inside of the Windows NT folder, and then out of the Windows System 32 folder, in the Windows folder on the C drive, in the System 32 folder, you're going to want to copy hypertrm.dll. So you'll need the DLL file and the executable file, and then you can run hyperterminal in Windows 7. To console into the router, a better tool is PuTTY. PuTTY you can download. Just do a Google search on PuTTY, and you'll find the web page for it. And you can download the executable PuTTY. I'll show you how to do both to connect to the router right now. So for hyperterminal, I'm going to launch it and get this to work. And you're going to need to give it your I'm just going to give it my area code first time you run it. Okay, click OK and make a name for your connection. I'll call it Cisco. I'll click OK, and let's see here, connect using modem. No, I'm going to connect using COM1. Okay, so you're going to set that to COM1. You click OK, and then you set this to 9600, your bits per second, data bits 8, parity none, stop bits 1, flow control none. And click OK, and you can see right away I have a connection to the router, right? And you can see I've got a router here with no configuration, right? So that's pretty good. Let me close that. I'm going to disconnect now and close it out. I'm going to save the connection named Cisco. Alright, so I saved that connection. Now with PuTTY, it's similar. You just run PuTTY, and you have choices here: raw, telnet, rlogin, SSH, or serial. I'll take serial. 9600 is the default already, and it's already defaulting to COM1 here. And just click open. Right? Click in the window, hit enter, and then you get the router prompt. So you can see that that works pretty nice too. PuTTY works really nicely also. So either way is good, but I'll show you the hyperterminal way for configuring this router, because that is the traditional way that it's done in the Cisco curriculum, is using hyperterminal. Although I do recommend PuTTY, it'll make your life a lot easier. So we'll run hyperterminal, go the traditional route, and type in here, new connection, change it to COM1, communication 1, put in our correct settings, and click OK and hit enter. Alright, and when you first get in here, it's actually going to look like this. Okay, so when you first console in physically to an actual router, you should get this. As soon as you hit enter, you're given a user exec prompt. This is user mode prompt, and then you're going to see this output that is sometimes that's sent to the screen. Right now it's telling me about my interface, and this output can get to be annoying. So first thing I do is turn that off. It'll help for the video for learning process too. So anyway, you can't turn off this output to the console window from user mode or user exec mode. So we'll have to go to privileged exec mode. So we'll type in enable, and if you get output in the middle of your command, just hit backspace and then hit enter again if you want, or you can just finish your command and hit enter, it'll work. So enable, right? I typed in enable and hit enter. Now I'm in privileged user mode. You can see the pound sign there, and I'm going to need to go one mode higher to global config mode. So I'm going to say configure terminal. Type in configure terminal, 2 words, hit enter, and now if you see this prompt, once again I'm getting output, I'll hit enter, where it says router and then config in parentheses and then a pound sign. That's global configuration mode. Now I'm going to type in no logging console, and that should stop all of the output to the console window. So now I can exit out, and I'm going to exit again and start from scratch. So I hit enter, I'm in user mode, I type enable, I'm in privileged mode, I type configure terminal, and I'm in global configuration mode. Now I can configure my interfaces. So we'll configure the Ethernet interface first. Type in interface FA 0/0, that's for fast Ethernet 0/0, type enter, and we'll put in our IP address for our interface. So we'll type in IP address 192.168.1.1, then put a space and put in your subnet mask in decimal notation. Hit enter. Alright, and you will not see any response. If you don't see any response, if you have an error, if you put in your command incorrectly, you'll see a response. But if you put it in correctly, you'll see no response. So it's definite like a command line situation here, right? Command line interface. Then to turn on the interface, we'll say no shutdown. And now our Ethernet interface is up, and if we had output coming to the window, which I turned off, it would say fast Ethernet is now up. Okay, so we've just configured our fast Ethernet interface, and I will hit exit. Now I'm back in global config mode, and let's do our next interface. So our next interface for this router will be interface serial 0/0. Right? Now I'm in interface configuration mode. You can see what says config-if, and I'll put in the IP address. IP address 10.0.0.1, subnet mask 255.0.0.0, right? And I will hit enter. And since this interface on the bottom router is the serial cable is the DCE side of the serial cable, the DCE, I have to put a clock rate on this interface. So I'll type clock space rate and 56,000. Okay, so I've given it the clock rate. makes the DCE, and now I'll say no shut down. Okay, so that's great. So now we've configured the interface on our fast Ethernet, and we've configured the interface on our serial. I'll type exit. I'll type exit again.